Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Bertacci. I'm the membership coordinator over here at INN. We are hosting this on behalf of Brad Hamilton, who did a stellar job and negotiated this deal with LexisNexis. Brad works over at the Contently Foundation. We also have Maureen on the line. She is a solutions consultant. She works with LexisNexis, and she's going to show us how the tool works today. If anyone has topic suggestions for them to use during the demo, feel free to chat them in or speak up and let us know. If you have questions about anything as we're going through, you can type them into the chat and we'll either answer them throughout or get to them at the end. Just so everyone knows, we do have a hard stop at 10:55, so be sure to either get your questions in before that, or I'll be sharing Brad and Maureen's contact info at the end of the session, and you can reach out to them directly with any questions that you may have. All right, so Brad or Maureen, who wants to start off?
So Brad, you're going to introduce yourself. I'll share the PowerPoint while you.
Okay. Cool. All right. So first of all, welcome everyone. And the first thing I want to let you know is that the reason that we are here today is in part because of a frustration that I had as the editor-in-chief of the Contently Foundation, which is a foundation for investigative reporting in New York. The frustration was that freelancers who are pitching me stories simply were not able to get their hands on premium research required to be able to submit effective pitches. And so that began the process of my discussing with LexisNexis, how do we provide access to their services for people who are in the freelance world? And that is where we're at today. So we created a deal. The deal is to allow people who are freelancers, i.e. meaning people who are not already part of big media, to tap into these archives, which contain, high-level premium content used by every big media company in the world. So if you're not familiar with LexisNexis, that's what they do. They service places like the Times, Washington Post, News Corp. Every big company has access to it because it is the top research option globally. And of course, a lot of people do use Google, which is great. But as far as doing actual industry standard research, you need a place like LexisNexis to be able to get all of the content that they have. So myself, I'm the editor of this foundation. We do long-form investigative pieces. It works much like ProPublica. We've been in business for 2 years. Once a story is ready, usually it's about 5,000 to 8,000 words. That story then is offered for free to publishing partners. We work with Medium, Fusion, the Guardian newspaper, and my old employer, which is the New York Post. So if you want to pitch stories to the Contently Foundation, please feel free to do so. We're very keen to hear from all of you in the investigative world. So that's kind of the combination there, my work with this foundation and my relationship with LexisNexis, which has been a great one. So that's where we are today. We're at a point where this is now for the first time available to freelancers for $19.95 per month. It's a 1-year commitment. You can go to a website that was set up jointly to handle this offer and this access. It's called expertaccess.org, and you can get a subscription there if you want. And once you do, you will find that you are now capable of tapping into an incredible amount of material that can help you with just about everything that you're doing. Whether it's a pitch, whether it's a long-form project, whether you have an assignment that you need to fulfill, or whether you're just investigating a subject to see what else might be there. This compendium of archives, which is 26,000 news sources. So that means like the New York Times is 1, the Washington Post is 2, up to 26,000. We'll get more into that as we go, but it's really just an unbeatable collection of information to help you. So that's the offer. That is the subscription. Now, one of the things that we're going to do today is focusing on not just how to use the Nexis platform, but how to use what it offers to get what you need, which is a story idea or a pitch. So my feeling has always been that when you start combing through the clips, you can become quickly very knowledgeable about the subject that you're working on. And as you read, holes in the reporting begin to show up and suggest areas where you can find a niche for yourself. So by reading and immersing yourself in the background of your subject, that is often the best way to come up with an idea that you can sell. So we're going to do a little bit of that, we're going to just do sort of go through a little bit of what's out there on this platform. We have newspapers, we have wires, magazines, a lot of trade journals, which are amazing. When you're looking into a certain industry or a niche. Transcripts is something that is become more and more valuable, particularly when you talk about politicians being held to account for what they've said in the past, or what their policies have been described as in the past. So we're talking about television and radio transcripts. Niche newsletters, like very industry or business specific newsletters. A lot of that content is expensive and not available through the open web. That's part of what we have here. And as we get into it, you'll see that there's a lot of biographical information, which is super helpful when you're looking into a particular individual or a story that includes certain people that you want to know more about, and also ways that you can contact those people. And then the last thing is we also have sort of professionally compiled reports, analysis on specific countries and specific industries, and we'll show you how to search those. Now, one thing that I want to note is that a lot of people do ask about public records, because public records is a great way to find people, primarily by getting their cell phone numbers and home addresses. This does not include public records, but as I mentioned, it does include a huge amount of contact information. So it's a different basket of information. It's generally more business oriented. So if you're looking for someone, you're going to find their business email, you're going to find their business line. In some cases, you have home addresses as well. So the public records part of it is addressed by having this really amazing amount of biographical information as part of this content, this package that we're offering.
And can I just, for one moment, interject? So in talking about the public records, because Laura and I talked about this yesterday, we cannot sell public records to individuals, but we can sell them to small businesses. So if you actually have a business with a Secretary of State filing, so that's essentially what we need to be able to sell you public records. You are welcome to reach out to myself, Maureen Spadotto, and you can reach out to Laura. She can connect you, and we could talk about how to get a subscription. The pricing is very different for that, so just put that out there. But we would be able to, have a discussion about that. So again, that's just because there are people on the phone we know that can probably qualify. We wanted to just let you know that that is, sort of outside of this package, but that is something that we do. Okay. So sorry, Brad, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's good to let people know. So people have asked a little bit about how far back this content goes, and you can see this sort of rundown here. I mean, we're talking about the 60s and 70s for most places. So like if you're researching, I don't know, the Vietnam War or something like that, you're going to have an enormous amount of material there. One thing that some people aren't aware of is that there's a lot of government-generated records in this compendium of archives. So we'll get into that a little bit. Congressional reports, certain agency reports, and those go back many decades as well.
Great. Do you want to talk about this just very quickly? We'll go over Google and, oh, sorry, there's 1, 2, and 3 are missing. But I mean, and I can do this really quickly. So, we really feel that Google is amazing. And it's a great research tool, but you cannot get a good archive out of any open web search. And that's, truly why we are in business, is because we provide you the ability to do research on something and, get past the top 10 large websites that are, making the Google ad model. You're not going to get very small local papers using Google, and you're also not going to be able to search back into the 80s. And so that's two things that are very helpful when you're doing sort of deep dive reporting. And so that's where, Nexis versus the open web is really something that is important to know. And I think a lot of people just kind of, run a search and then just kind of think that that's potentially all they need to know, but there is a benefit. And Brad is a huge testament to that. He has taught me actually how much, reporters really value having the entire story in front of them. And his favorite quote is, spend a couple days trolling the archives in Nexis and you'll become an expert in anything you want to become an expert in. And so I just so wholeheartedly took that as such a way to be proud about what we do. And so again, I just love to share that little quote from him because it is just, to me, so important. So that's about it. Again, just that, one of the best ways for you guys to monitor news is to invest in a paid service. And so that's, again, why Brad felt so strongly about getting you access to Nexis. And so, Brad, let me let you kind of wrap that up, and I will go to Nexis. I'm going to stop sharing.
Sure. Yeah. When you were talking, Maureen, I remembered something interesting, which was a little story that one of the early slides, was a piece that we did, which was exploring judicial corruption. And we kicked off this piece with an anecdote about a guy who had been using his influence to affect a court case. And because we were able to search local papers, through Nexis, we were able to find that this guy had once been arrested on a domestic violence charge. And so because we had that and we were able to get the police record from that, we were able to combine that and make a really compelling opening anecdote for a 5,000 word examination of judicial corruption that ran in the Guardian newspaper. So yeah, there's really no way to underestimate, or I should say, there's no way to really convey fully how valuable having access to small community newspapers, local papers, regional papers, that's just a tremendous advantage. So, okay, so it looks like we're now into the Nexis platform. And Maureen, you want to start showing our participants a little bit about how to search this?
Yeah, so we do have a homepage where it'll allow you to search across all sort of buckets of content, news, company, our industry data, biographical and legal at one time. But the first search I'm going to run, I'm just going to focus on the news tab just to show you how to use that and show you how, of course, now suddenly my screen is frozen. Hold on one second. Okay. Sorry, I'm a little stuck here. I don't know what's going on. Oh, that's why I'm stuck on that screen. Okay, sorry, I had a little pop-up in front of me that I couldn't see. There's a block on the right side of my screen, and I just didn't see something. So, okay, so we're gonna do something quick just to show how easy this is to use. So one of the things that's great about Nexis is having the ability to run a really pinpoint search. So not just getting all sorts of results back that aren't interesting, but things that are related. So on the news tab, what we did is we created a form. So you don't have to know how to do Boolean searching, but you can essentially say, I want Bank of China, and I want in the same sentence, let's say Trump, something really simple, right? So times when Bank of China and Trump were listed together, right? And then what you can do is you can do all dates. You could say, you know what, I don't really care about what's been listed in the last week. I want to know it was done maybe maybe from January all the way to like September. So you can always choose a custom date if you want. Or again, you could just search the last 3 months. I mean, there's a lot going on right now. So that kind of might just be not really what you're looking for, right? You might be looking at what kind of was said a few weeks ago, right? So you're always able to do custom dates. And so let's just say, let's say I want to do a custom date, and I'm just going to type in here, let's end it here, like 9. And let's just run this. So, and I have choices, what kind of group file I want to run it against. And so I'm going to leave it as all news, all languages, but you do have a bunch of sources there to choose from. And then we just click search. Really easy. There's not a whole lot to do. And again, it's going to make sure that Bank of China and Trump are within about 15 words of each other. So they're not going to be Bank of China at the beginning of the article and Trump at the bottom of the article, right? Like these are going to make sure that there's relevance here. And so this is one example where again, you can see from the hits here that Trump and then you know, piggy bank is China, right? That's a lot of the terms here, but you know, again, you're going to be able to see your hits real fast. You're going to be able to decide, yeah, okay, this is, you know, this is a relevant article. I'm going to choose a couple of these. I'm just going to scroll down again. I'm just choosing things to sort of show you, you know, how to do this. And then, you know, again, he's talking about his funding sources, including the Bank of China. So again, great way to quickly do a search. I have 4 things right now that I checked off. I can add those to my folder. I already had about 4 things in my folder, so now I have 8 things in my folder, and this is a 30-day folder. So you're able to just aggregate stuff, do research over a couple of days, and then when you're ready, you would open this folder, and then you would either PDF it to yourself or email it to yourself. So that's one way that you're able to just kind of aggregate over a couple of days and really kind of do your deep dive. The other thing is if you just want to email it to yourself or send, you know, save it real quick, you do print email downloads. It's really, this product has become really easy to use. If this is something you want to track on the long term, you would set up an alert by clicking on the little alarm clock. And again, over the next week or so, however long you're doing your story, you would get your daily stories on this. And so just like a Google alert, but much more accurate and much more comprehensive, because Google, you're not, you know, again, it's been proven, they've done a lot of research on this, that their alerts truthfully aren't really covering everything, like ideally they would. And so again, here, the beauty is you're getting kind of the data dump from Nexis. You're getting everything, big and small. You're getting all of it in one spot. So here, now Brad loves to talk about content, and so do I. So we're gonna scroll down on the left here, and under the publication section, Brad, let's see what we see here that you find interesting, because he's always got really interesting things that he likes to point out. I mean, I already see, so Newsbank is one of our aggregators that they really focus on really small hometown papers, and then they aggregate them all, and then they send them to us. And so this Alice Echo is probably a very small town paper. So again, when you're looking for you know, local type of news, or somebody trying to, you know, really dig up a local story, and again, Brad has said to me that a lot of really compelling news has come from really, you know, small sources, right? Small hometown papers. And so again, you're getting a lot of this content as well. So if you wanted to add this to your folder, you could, you just click on that. And so, Brad, what did you see there? I know I didn't really give you much of a chance to look, but
well, I mean, the local papers, that local paper that you just identified, they were just, you know, reprinting something that the New York Times had written. But like, if you look at, you know, when you're looking at, you know, sort of, you know, Politico, you know, more sort of focused publications that might have interesting information. You know, there's a CNN transcript. You know, obviously Trump was probably talking about that at some point. You know, and when you're talking about this sort of issue, you certainly want to look at, you know, industry analysis on this. You want to look at political analysis. There's some blog posts there from the Washington Post that might be interesting. So obviously this is an issue, a big issue that I think is going to continue to be fertile ground for investigative reporters, which is to say Donald Trump's, you know, financial conflicts of interest. So that's why we ran this search, you know, and, you know, you want to know, if you want to get into this, you want to find out what kind of financial commitments Donald Trump has from the Bank of China. You know, you can go into, you know, the international section as Maureen is doing now. You know, and if, you know, this is going to be a little bit more sort of business oriented, financial oriented information. So that's really a great way to sort of identify, you know, as you look to the left there, what are the publications that are most interesting to you based on what it is you're looking for. So, and as you can see, there is web content as well at the bottom. You'll see there's web content as well. So you're going to get both, you know, paywall protected and highly niche oriented information, as well as stuff that's available on the web. So it's a good way of just grabbing a lot of different stuff at the same time.
Yeah, so just to kind of piggyback on what Brad just said, so so we aggregate as much licensed, meaning full content, typically subscription-based service, as we can. And then there will be publications where either we haven't made a deal with them, or maybe they just, you know, are not interested in, you know, sending us a feed. They're not able to do it technically. So we have about 10,000 websites that we do go out and index every day, actually a couple times a day. And those stories are these little ones with little, like a rectangle and an arrow out. So that is telling you that it is going to launch you out. The beauty of that is that, you know, we are letting you know that the story exists. And again, we have really good technology that's going out and really scouring all of this content and bringing you everything that we can. But most of the content that you click on will be like this. It'll be a full story. And again, you can take this and you save it and you're able to refer back to it for your research. So one of the things that, you know, is important to mention about Nexis is that this is an archive, right? And so we get everything and then we keep it forever. So your story's not going to disappear, just like it can sometimes when you try to find something that you Googled a couple weeks ago. And so, you know, again, this is full content. It's, you know, New York Times, for example, is one that, you know, you don't need your subscription anymore because we have all of that content here. And so that's, you know, the examples here. And one of the things, so Brad, you had mentioned, oh, I'm sorry. So what I wanted to make sure I showed was, if you notice that story that I had pulled up before, it was in another language. And so all you need to do is choose your language of choice here, and it will translate everything on the page for you. So you do have the ability to get international news and quickly have it machine translated, so it's not going to be perfect. And then, you know, essentially be able to figure out if those stories are relevant. So I just wanted to point that out as well. So that's important to know. But when you put it in your basket or your cart, it will go back to native language, because for legal purposes, we're not allowed to translate things and then deliver them to you. So, but it's there. You can just copy it if you want to off the page. So one more thing that Brad had mentioned was the transcripts here. And again, we have a huge you know, amount of transcripts. And so we're going to do a great example about that. We can do that one next, actually, Brad, if you want.
Sure.
But let me let Brad kind of, if you wanted to say anything else about this page before we kind of moved on.
Well, I think, Maureen, would you mind showing the sort of preview option of and how you scroll through the articles?
Yeah, so perfect. Okay, so you have two choices. You can preview. So again, it just pops it over to the right here, and you can kind of just look at it, and then you can print, email, download from here. Or you actually go into this story, and then on the right here, there's a hit bar. So there's 3 hits in this story, and just like control find, but we actually provide it in the story. It bounces you down to the place in your article that has your hits, and so they'll be highlighted for you. So it's really easy in a very large document to find what you're looking for. And then once you decide, okay, this is a good story, you could either add it to your folder or again, print, email, download. And then you can just scroll to the next story. So just like a magazine, you can just then kind of flip the page and go to the next hit. And if this is interesting to you, go ahead and take it. Now this is one where it was a web content story, so we're going to give you the link here. And again, we would give you, you put it in your folder, you would get the link so you can refer back to it. So that's kind of the 2 good examples there of like what this content will look like. But again, most of it will look like this. You'll have the full story here. And again, this is a long one. So let's look quickly at the bottom, because I think that this is such, you know, a great part of what Nexis does. So we take every article and we essentially machine read it, and then we apply taxonomy to it. So we essentially like metadata tag it, right? So we know that the story is about presidential candidates, but it's also about voting, and it's about xenophobia. So one thing you can do is you can add indexing to your search, and I'll show you how to do that later. And it'll make sure that your article's at least 50% or more about your idea. So this is great for really that deep dive, kind of like, let's say you want articles that are really about corruption or conflicts of interest, or even just about pharmaceutical industry, like industries and things like that, local government. I have a great search that I do for people all the time on, you know, really focusing on what's going on at the local governmental level and weeding out all that other news about, you know, kind of things being mentioned in Atlanta, right? Like it's just really kind of being able to focus on, you know, sort of movement at the federal or state level. So again, the power of Nexis is really the searching and the technology that we've applied to the content behind the scenes. So good, Brad, is that what you kind of were hoping I was going to do?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, you know, one of the things that I focus on always is how do you use what you find to develop something that you can sell as a story, right? So Bank of China is a hot subject right now. I could just see from those search results that, you know, if I spend a day or so reading through that, you know, stories might suggest themselves about like who actually runs the Bank of China for the central government of China. Let's find out some details about Donald Trump's investments there. You know, who are his partners there? You know, who has he dealt with? What all has he said about, you know, his conflicts? What all has he said about his projects there? I mean, this is the kind of thing like, this is a hot subject right now, right? Donald Trump has conflicts of interest, you know, and he's said a lot of very sort of specific things about, I don't like the trade agreements we have with China. We're going to get tougher with China. We're going to try to get, a fair trade agreement with China. At the same time, he has this investment that he relies on the central government of China to provide the funding for. So, that just right there suggests to me a lot of different stories that if you read all through those clips and you continue to search, you're going to find interesting angles of inquiry. So that's just to underlie what we're trying to do here is show you that you can search, but that when you search and you find things, you wind up stumbling across new story angles.
Yeah, so speaking of what Brad was just talking about, so I was setting up the search while he was talking. And so for this one, we're going to search on just our transcript file, because we do break things out by, different groups. So if you don't want to search all news, you just want transcripts. So what I did was I came down to this little bar here, and I just started typing the word transcript, and then the top 10 sources come back here, and then you can just choose one. So if you just want to search the New York Times, let's say, you just type it in there, and then you can do different things. And so this is a fun one. I have a video on this, and we have a little tip sheet. So you're not meant to remember this today, but this is one of the things that's really, really wonderful about Nexis is you can find, not just transcripts where they're talking about Trump and like China and things like that, but the transcripts where Trump is doing the talking and then he's talking about China and trade and things like that. So why I wrote it like this is in the body of the actual document, I need Trump to be in all caps. And why that is because when we bring in documents, the transcripts, the person who's speaking, their name is in caps. And so that's where this is just the search. And again, I give this to you. You can email me anytime to get this. I'm your person that, I'm like your technical help here at Nexis. And so you have lots of support. You also have customer service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 363 days a year that you can call for help. So again, and then I'm saying I want to know when Trump is talking, and then also, kind of where he mentions like China. And I'm just going to open this up to about 15 words. Just again, it's sort of my preference. And I'm going to leave the dates alone, and I'm going to leave everything else just, to run. So got about 500 articles. And, you're going to have to look through them a little bit. But again, just showing the power of, you can go back to the 80s with this. I mean, some of these transcripts go back really far. So just really fun to be able to kind of find this. And so I'll show you an example. So here, now let's go down to our hits, right? Because this is probably really long. So if you can see, this is again, I'm just teaching you how to run these kind of searches. And so Trump is doing the talking, right? Because his name is in caps. And then pretty close to where he is actually, so Quest is actually the one in this one where he, they're talking about Trump and China. But I was trying to get it, and sometimes it's hard to get it exact. It's not always an exact science where he's actually doing the talking. So the next one hopefully will be a good hit. But again, this is a great way for you to actually find interviews where he's involved, and that, what you're hoping to learn about is actually being said. Okay, so super. To me, I just love being able to do this kind of stuff, and I love letting reporters do this kind of stuff too.
Hey, wait, can you go back? Can you click back
sure.
just 1 sec? I wanted to. There was a hit in the last thing that you had open. This is again sort of the idea that you where when you start reading things.
You're good. I just didn't want to hit the back button, so I'm going to rerun
it.
Sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But what I was noticing is that there was one of those transcript hits made mention of something that the China Daily had reported. I think it might have been the second one, the nightly business report there. I think this is a second hit there. So if you open that, you'll see there is a reference in that transcript, if you go down to where Trump is actually speaking, and you'll see here something about, where was it? Something, there was something in there that about that, there it is. Separately, the China Daily reported that antitrust authorities are now reviewing business practices of an unnamed American automaker. So like that kind of thing, like you're looking for something that's Trump related, China related, and all of a sudden you see something that is being reported overseas about some kind of an unnamed automaker that is doing something illegal. So like that right there. Okay, so if you're an investigative reporter, maybe you want to find out what are they talking about and what exactly is the issue. Like that's a pretty tantalizing little lead there. So this is the thing that I'm talking about. When you start reading these things, when you actually have time to, get a cup of coffee and go through all of the stuff that you're downloading in your search, you wind up just stumbling across things like that. Where you start thinking, well, geez, I need to look into that. So
Agreed.
anyway, so.
So I love what Brad's passion about doing research. It's actually been so wonderful working with him. And so, okay, so next example is a really fun one. So again, today is just about kind of showing you the power here. So we're going to do a search. I'm going to do a negative news search. And so we give you the search string. It's linked out in this help me search the news on the left-hand side. We have a little link here. And then the 3 hits on the side here are negative news about companies, about individual civil proceedings, and individual criminal activity. So if I click on the first one, it's going to really show you, and I'm sorry if this is small on your screens, but we give you this great search string, again, to really help you to get the negative stuff in the news, right? Because running a search and then finding those negative things like antitrust, right? Sometimes you have to think of all these words, and, it kind of takes a lot of brain power sometimes for me to think of all these sort of other words that would mean the same thing. So we're giving you this great search string. And again, like, let's say for an individual's criminal activity, it would be, things like they were arrested and they did, embezzlement or DWIs, or, things that they did that were misappropriating things. And so again, we give you this great search. So I'm going to do Pfizer right now, just, now again, what is sometimes so great, do this on a local politician, right? Do this on local business owners. And then you set up the alert. So let's say you have something that's just sort of an idea, right? And it's brewing. You run the search in here, and then you set the alert and you let it run. And, within a few days, you'll probably find some really interesting things going on that you didn't really know before. So I'm a big fan of get a good search and then just set the alert and let it sit and let it come to you every day. So I'm asking for Pfizer within the same sentence of any of these kind of words about being alleged or arraigned, or people that are being arrested, or, convictions, corruptions. So this should pick up things really kind of business worthy as well, like scandal, sanctions and warnings. You'd want to know about that, right? So this is the kind of stuff that we're going to pick up for you, because this is what a lot of people use our products for. We sell a lot of due diligence. This to a lot of banks and people doing due diligence. So this is what we're really good at, this representation, things like that. So I'm going to run this. I'm going to run this on the last 3 months. Just, we're going to get a lot. And just remember to change your source back, because we don't want to search this on the transcripts. We want to search this on everything. So
by the way,
now I'm just going to do. Yeah.
Can you explain the root word expander? Because some people might not be familiar with that.
My friend. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, of course. So the exclamation point is a root word expander in Nexis, and it's like that in a lot of tools, other tools as well. So this is going to look for abused, abusing, abuser, accused, accusing, accuser. So you don't have to write those words all, in the search together. So just to teach you, Nexis on this page is a literal search. And so what you put in this box is what you're going to get out. So that's why, using this exclamation point, and there's tips for using search connectors here, which can teach you. And again, I'm happy to help. That would really kind of walk you through all that. But this is, again, we gave you this, so you don't really need to remember it. It's already in that help me search the news. So I didn't do anything except to just copy and paste. But let's run this search. Let's see what happens. Give this a second. It's a big search, so that will take about 5 or 10 seconds just to load it all up here. 1 minute. Okay, so let's talk about, sorry, I just kind of flew past that. So some subsidiaries have been sued by Pfizer, so that's Pfizer suing them. But again, might be interesting to figure out why they're suing people, right? That I would want to know. And then something about the Belgian market and ongoing risks with Pfizer's leading products. And so this is interesting because this is out over in Chile, and this is actually Pfizer's report about how they're doing, by this Chilean pharmaceutical and healthcare report. So they've done this report. So not only is news included in this, but also like analyst types of reports. So this would be more of like that kind of a report where they're really going through like what's going on. So this is where, BMI, which is a very premium source that's subscription based, where they're doing a SWOT analysis on what's going on. They're giving you a company overview. So again, if you're kind of trying to get a feel for what's going on with this company, you can do it really fast using these kind of sources. So
And it's a good,
Brad, did you want to say anything about
yeah,
negative
yeah,
news? Go ahead.
yeah. This is a good. It's a good that you're doing this
Oh,
Pfizer
sorry.
because about a year or so ago, Stephen Brill published this really impressive investigation into Johnson and Johnson and the use of a drug of theirs, Risperdal, and he had a lot of company information. You know, he was able to filter and find things that were put out specifically by Johnson and Johnson that related to their sales and their marketing of a particular drug. So, you know, when you're doing a deep dive and you're combining different sources, interviews and data, to have this kind of negative news search, which produces a whole swath of different results, is just incredibly valuable. And not just for companies. You know, obviously the pharmaceutical industry is under a lot of scrutiny right now, but you know, an individual is a good way. You know, like this is how we found this guy who was involved in this corruption issue with the judge. You know, an individual, a politician, a company. You know, and this is just an amazing way to get information. And as Maureen said, if you put an alert on, if you're covering somebody individually or covering a company, and you want to know as things break, you want to set that alert so that as you're reporting, you're getting like a daily update on anything negative that might have been published about your subject.
So one of the things I didn't mention, and I apologize, is one of the really nice filters on the left-hand side is your ability to, within these results or within this 2,600 articles, you can just play with it. So you don't have to rerun searches constantly. You can say, okay, within the results, I want to include all articles mentioning this company, right? And so you choose the add include, and then the results will decrease significantly. And then you can add more filters. You can add about 4 or 5 of these, and you know, again, it will kind of bring things back. You could add the word Alzheimer's. You could, you know, whatever you want to kind of break it down for you. And then once you're done with that, so then I can put this one in my folder. Then you just take that filter off and you go back to the rest. So let's say I want to exclude then any articles talking about, I don't know if there's, let's see, I had an idea, but now, you know, talking about like, I don't know, GPCR, right? So I don't want anything, there's too much noise about GCPR, right? So I want to exclude and just get rid of that. And it's going to exclude within that search within results. So again, you're really able to kind of play with it. And then again, just got rid of whatever was in there. I may have typed it wrong actually. And so there's, you know, that kind of example. And then you can set an alert on this. So, you know, and actually I should walk you through that real quick just to show you. Really easy. You name it and then you decide how often, you know, who's going to send to. So you hit next. Put your email address in here one time and then it saves it. So I can put it here. I can optimize it for to read it on my phone. And what you will get with the alert is the full story. So up to 100 stories a day on each alert that is set, you will get the full text in your email. So you do not even have to log into the product. And then if you want it, you know, once a day, 3 times a day, if you only want it once a week, you just want to aggregate stuff once a week, you can do that and you just click create alert. Okay. Really simple.
One of the other advantages, we've talked a little bit about this, of setting an alert is to not only keep updated through the course of your reporting, but once you've turned in your story, it's vital that you are aware of any developments. You know, magazines obviously take a while to print. Some of them have, you know, 3 or 4 month lead time. And while your editor is editing your piece, you want to be the one alerting your editor to something that has come up. You know, not the other way around. So in other words, if you let's say you're doing a story on Pfizer and then suddenly a lawsuit gets filed in some small jurisdiction that no one is really going to know about, but it relates directly to your story, you want to be able to say, listen, I just found this thing. Maybe we want to include it. You know, maybe it affects the way that we're going to, you know, maybe we want to add it in the lead, or maybe we want to just make a reference to it. But by having that update through the whole process, the editing process, you're getting that alert set and you're getting the updated information, just means that you're showing how professional you are, and you're also making sure that your piece is thoroughly accurate and up to date.
Yeah, and so I'm just giving, while Brad was talking, just giving the tip on how to, you remember the index terms that we talked about in that first search, where I want to make sure a story is about what I'm looking for. You would just type in terms and the terms will come up. And so again, behind this word is a very complex search string, pulling in more than just a word corruption. And so here, that's where you're seeing that. And then, so I'm adding all these terms, and then I can say, and then I want to know about Hartford, let's say. You can put a city, or you can put a state. So I want to know if there's any corporate wrongdoing going on in, you know, Hartford, Connecticut. And so again, it's going to make sure it's at the regional, local government level where, and then what's going on. So again, we wanted to give you lots of ideas today about different types of searches that you can run, not just focusing on, you know, a person, but also just, you know, companies. There's so much content in here and so many ways to really get it fast. That, you know, again, I'm gonna run the search really quickly, but then we're gonna move on to the biographical content because we really think that that's so valuable. So again, we got more than 3,000 here. That's my fault. I should have restricted the time. I missed that. So you should restrict your date range. It'll bring back the first 1,000 for me. But again, that's how you run this and get really good results for, you know, what you're looking for without getting all that noise. And you can not out stock results, and there's so many things we can do to make your search really useful and valuable. So sorry about this. I ran a very big search that I didn't mean to run with doing all available dates with corruption in a city. So ignore this while we wait. And so then next thing we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to run some biographical just to show you how to really kind of, again, so here's my results that we had asked for, just to kind of let this run. And then you would open this up, and then at the bottom, you would be able to see, like, why did this come back? And be able to figure out, okay, why is this really about what I had asked for? Oh, and you know what? I did actually, hold on, let me go back here. Let me just teach you one more thing here. So I actually did corruption or corporate wrongdoing or regional governments or Hartford. That's my problem there. So you would want to say and. So you have to make sure that it's about any of these things and Hartford, not or Hartford, because that's a silly search, right? That doesn't make really any sense. So again, you would rerun that and you would have the and connector there. Sorry about that. Okay, so biographical. Now, so why is this content really valuable? Well, a lot of it's subscription based. So we're going to click edit here. And there's two kind of sides to this content. There is the contact stuff. So right here, this contact reference. This has to be run on its own. And then there's the all biographical, which will include like your marquees, who's who, your Yale biographies. But let's do the contact reference first, just so we can, you know, just understand like what's in here, right? So I'm going to do, you know, somebody that's been in the news recently, and you're just going to click search. You can leave the dates alone, and it's going to just bring back whatever content. Oh, actually, and I'm sorry, I did this opposite. That's okay. Keep switching the biographical. Flip my search around. This should run, and we should get some, you know, again, just kind of content.
What just happened?
I think we lost Maureen. Unfortunately, it looks like Maureen's connection was lost. All right, well, let me just sort of take over for a minute, because this biographical source thing here that we're looking at, I mean, this is incredibly valuable. And that mark that she's made on that contact reference source right there, there's about 4 or 5 premium sources that provide information. You're looking for an individual, whether you know that person's name or don't know that person's name. So obviously we've lost Maureen. Somehow she lost her connection. But what she was going to demonstrate is that when you go in there, you have sources such as Zoom information, Zoom people. Now, I don't know if anyone has ever done a search on a particular individual and seen one of the results that you get back is Zoom, and it shows a sort of sphere of influence. Well, I think we have Maureen back. Are you back, Maureen? Looks like maybe she is. Okay. Anyway, she's doing some searching. So right now she's searching under someone named, I think it was Scott Pruitt, which I think everyone knows who that is, right? Scott Pruitt, you're familiar with the guy, right? He's in the news. And so, you know, now we're going to look into him. And so we're going to click on this particular source, which is going to give you his career information. As she's scrolling down here, you can see all of the different places where he has served, his personal information. He's married, he has kids, he lives in Danville, Kentucky. You know, he works at he's the Attorney General of Oklahoma. And so, so this is the Zoom. Well, actually, this is, I don't know what we're looking at now. I think this might be the Zoom platform, this is the Zoom meeting platform. Coincidentally, Zoom also has this massive amount of information about individuals, right? So now you can see he got, Pruitt was educated, he got a BA from Georgetown, all this stuff. Like, so now as you go down, you start to find out affiliations, you start to find out political leanings, you start to find out personal interests, his career history. So this is just one guy who's a very public guy, but the same type of information is available for literally tens of thousands of people, people in business, people in politics. And when you start searching, she's going to do a search here, a guy named Mike Walsh. Okay, it's just a random name. She's just finding because it's a common name. So you're looking for all these are all these different Mike Walshes that are in the system. And when you open them up, you'll see, again, the same kind of thing that you saw there with Scott Pruitt. You'll see, like this guy, there's stuff here on who's who company directors. So, you're going to find out a little bit of information about this guy. And, then, okay, so now she's going into essentially, again, searching this contact reference source. This is how we got to this, right? So, I'm just sort of trying to, she's showing up there on the left there. You see that Zoom people information? You saw that? That's 577 hits in Zoom people, a people named Mike Walsh. This other thing called net prospects, that's also, that's a sort of a wealth indicator. So like if you're doing a story about somebody and you want to know how much what their net worth is, prospects of wealth is there, and you'll find an incredible amount of detailed, specific information about someone's financial holdings, someone's personal interests, their professional contacts, who they're connected to, who they've worked with. Okay, so here's this guy. He's Irish. He happens to be Irish. He lives in Staten Island. He's a homeowner. These are some of his wealth indicators, right? This is an idea of how they got this information. His estimated net worth is between $500,000 and $1 million, right? So
hey Brad, I'm just going to interrupt you real quick. We're approaching our final 3 minutes.
Exactly.
I know Maureen had to get off. I don't know if you're able to stay, but I wanted to give everyone a chance to ask questions.
I'm sorry. We're going into detail, and it's I apologize for whatever happened there with Maureen's connection. But please do give me some questions. I see some questions that have been typed in, and so let me just sort of look. There's somebody who's asking about background of a Philip C. Richmond. Okay, so that would be easy enough. It would be exactly what we're doing right here with this contact source database.
I think that was just an initial suggestion for topic.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I think Brandon's next question was, how does this differ from my TLO subscription beyond the obvious news archives? You want to address that?
Yeah. Well, okay. So there are obviously different ways that you can get information, and I don't know all of what you have with TLO. And I mean, TLO has different subscriptions as well. So it sort of depends on what package you have. But what this offer entails is all those news sources, plus legal information, plus these transcripts, plus these contact sources. So, I mean, that's what it is. I'm not quite sure how it would differ from your TLO, what you have with TLO, but it's specifically for finding news as well as finding people.
I wanted to invite, does anyone else have questions at this time? Now's your moment.
It looks like there's a question, is it for freelancers only? I think we did address that. Nonprofit news staff can certainly request a subscription. These subscriptions are issued to individuals. So when you sign up, it goes directly to your email, and that email is connected to your IP address. So when you log on, you'll be able to you don't have to, each time put in your login information. It'll know who you are. But it also means you're not allowed to share your ID with other people, because the LexisNexis system knows that, if like two different IP addresses are using the same login information, they will know, and that is not allowed. So it's an individual thing that you have, and it goes directly to you.
So Pam asked, what about using it via a laptop from a coffee shop? Doesn't it mean that our IP changes between house and home?
Yeah, potentially. If you're using it, well, if you're using you're using it from a, let's say, a desktop at home, and you're using it also from your laptop, you can register both those IP addresses under your subscription. So it will know that this subscription has your IP address, addresses, if you're using two different computers. The IP address, I
Brad,
understand.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm
Oh, now I
back.
can. Yeah.
So don't worry. People don't have to worry so much about all this. I mean, really, it's just if there's 3 people using your ID at the same time, we know it. And so that's where we are able to figure this out. And so, you know, it's just, you know, we have people who buy one ID and 50 people try to use it, and that just can't happen. And so, because we'll go out of business if that's how things happen, because we pay, you know, the beauty of this is, you know, you guys are writers, right? A lot of you. And so we're paying royalties.
Yep.
She cut out again. Yeah. So anyways, just basically talking about the business model that LexisNexis has. They pay royalties to the people who provide information, and so it's IP address sharing is just not allowed. So that's kind of the issue. Not to worry. If you have a mobile device, it will recognize you, and you will not be targeted in any way. So I wouldn't worry about that. Just don't share with other people, because then you'll be snagged by the algorithm. Any other questions?
Pam also asked, so it is mobile friendly, so to speak, and I'm not sure, Pam, do you mean like you can use it on your cell phone, or you can literally be mobile and move around with this, you know, like use your laptop from multiple locations?
Yeah, that's a good question. My assumption is yes. I've never tried to use it from my phone.
She means use it from multiple locations.
Yeah.
I can see her nodding.
Right. Okay. Good. Okay. So I have used it with an iPad, and I've used it with my laptop. I've never used it with my phone, so it's never been a problem. So, and if you do have an issue, like if somehow your device isn't reading it or doesn't recognize you, the LexisNexis people are super good at providing support. So you can call them 24/7. You know, I think there's a phone number on the expertaccess.org page. You can go there, and it has a 24/7. And when you sign up, it gives you all this stuff as well, like how you contact them. You can contact them by email. You can also contact me. You can contact Maureen personally if you're not getting what you need. You can 24/7 call in, which is great. Like if you're stuck at 3 a.m. and you're searching something and you can't find it, they have a team of librarians that are available to help you. They're great too.
Mm-hmm. But so it's all right to, you know, because when you're working from a laptop, you might be working mobily. So say a reporter is traveling and needs to work from multiple offices.
So guys, I'm back actually. So sorry. So yeah, our tool is, sorry, I don't know why it keeps cutting me out. It keeps just literally closing on me. So yeah, so our products are all, they're platform neutral, meaning that you can essentially you use it anywhere. You can use it on your phone, you can use it on your laptop. Again, we're not going to snag you for having your phone going at the same time as your laptop. Again, it's just we're looking for abuse. And so don't worry so much about that. It's just, again, you cannot give this to 3 different people. It's meant to be a 1-to-1 ratio, okay? Any other questions about that? Because it's really not, but yes, it will work beautifully on your phone. It works everywhere. And we also have an app actually. So if you want to just search news really fast, there's a very cool app too.
So cool. Well, unfortunately, we have to run, but I want to thank everybody for participating. And please follow up with questions, or if you'd like some assistance in trying it out, doing a couple searches, laying your hands on the tool, we're available to help you with that. Everyone knows about the expertaccess.org website, which is how you sign up for this. And I want to thank everybody. This has been a really good session.
Thank you, everybody.
And I'm going to be sending out a follow-up email that will have contact information for Brad and Maureen, plus this URL, plus the meeting recording processing. So any other questions that you have, you should address directly to Brad and Maureen. All right.
Very good. Thank you all.
Thanks, Brad and Maureen.
Thank you.